Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you joined us for the first part of this, it was a great session. We talked about one of our factions we just created, the Midnight Dawn. Started thoughts on a third faction for this hub area, a group of druids. But from here to the end of our show today, we're going to be talking about a dungeon design. We are going to use the same setting that we've kind of come up with, the same intertwining between these three, but of course this is also a way to say, okay, this is how we are looking at a build of a dungeon or a economy of a dungeon sort of thing, and use this to make your own, take this directly, however you want to do it. But I think you're looking at a dungeon, you're looking at this situation, you're looking at that there is a reason for the dungeon to be there. That's like number one importance. And I think this was the tomb / seething place of the, ooh, that's all caps.
Yeah.
Kiel / whatever Kiel, where the dark entity is sealed away by.
And for those that are new here joining us, so a few episodes ago we built a town called the Hub, which pretty much is primary logging, and within the area there's magical timber, lumber, so on and so forth that they harvest. Well, we've been creating factions for this little location, and this particular dungeon right now, if you were going to place it on the Hub, I made a special place for it, which is up here in the woods itself, and I have actually labeled it. If you go to your map itself, on the little label it says cave. So if you would like to place it on your map, then it would be up here at the top, right there. So, but like Bill said, and we've said before, you can take this apart and do whatever you want to with it in any world setting and so on and so forth. Whether you use the hub itself, one of the factions, all of the factions, totally rearrange things as you please and do what you would like to. So, wow, we might need to look at our Twitch. Something about 8 commercials.
Okay.
We'll look at that after our stream, y'all. So.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I don't know. Twitch does their crazy stuff, and I'm sorry for that, guys. It's it's part of how they run their ad situation. We'll have to look and see if we have any more control over it.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be broken up, so it's not supposed to be
block.
Yeah. But anyways, so welcome back to those who have joined us. Edwin Sue, who we actually were just talking about, had been a contributor in past episodes, so welcome back to this one. We had talked about this particular dark entity, and Dave and I kind of off air, I was saying that I kind of see it like, or I think last session too, I talked about, I think it's more like Mordor or Morgoth or Sauron, this evil spirit that is so powerful that it had to be locked away more than just straight destroyed. It is one of those things where you I don't know where I was going with that. It is locked away anyways behind this dark sigil. So what we were, or the black sigil. So what I was thinking is that this cave is actually the entrance, or what's left of the entrance to their old fortification that this dark power once held. So it actually was like a castle and a dungeon and all that. So in this area, you would probably find ruins and rubble. And we discussed before that there are this woods of Ents that are now dormant, that have been infused with this dark energy. But these were the warriors of the former druids that helped defeat this dark entity in the past. And so these Ents probably tore down the castle itself, but the dungeon structure, everything that they had built below ground was still there. And it's deep down in the darkest recesses where this entity fled to was finally sealed. So deep within this dungeon.
Yes, kind of tell us all of it. Right now we are connecting everything together. So.
And like we've said several times, a lot of this is to demonstrate our design processes and some of the things we look at. A lot of it is you could take this wholesale, put it into any world, and be like, here you go. Or you could say, oh, I really like that idea for a dungeon. I'm going to alter it slightly so that it fits what I'm trying to do. I'm going to alter that faction slightly so it fits what I'm trying to do. But yeah, it's totally... Feel free to put this into any world, whether it's Faerun if you run there, or a homebrew setting, or anything else. It would take very little tweaks probably to make it.
I like to call it plop and play.
Yeah.
Not official yet, but that might be the title for the series.
Sealed away.
Yeah, essentially, the dungeon itself is where the dark entity is entrapped in. Is where these ley lines are seeping out of and corrupting the wood, and thus the altars, and thus everything else that we talked about in the previous, first part of this series. And so right now we're actually building the dungeon itself that actually houses the entity and the ecology of it, what keeps it within, what guards it, what lurks in the dark shadows, and what traps and wherever, because people are curious. They want this power. They want to either unknowingly release it because somebody at a Cracker Jack stand said, hey buddy, you want ultimate power, go to this place and pop the seal. So
yeah, like this particular spot is the actual tomb, in the end. The very end part is if you get through the entire dungeon and you get through there'll be this black sigil that is lurking in the depths of this dungeon. And then if you break that or do whatever, then this dark entity is released. There's a lot of things that we could have that could cause this. It could be that there's a guardian that's protecting this sigil, and when you defeat the guardian, unknowingly that frees the dark entity and it comes out. It could be that you have to do something else. Leave that up to you how badly you want them to have to face Vecna or whatever.
Or some undead kobolds or whatever, So.
Whatever you want. The dark entity should be something powerful and something, scary. So
and especially if you're tying in all of these factions and things that we have made so far, it should be your main quest, your main campaign goal, if you would. So
yeah, I mean, you gotta think this was something that was so scary that it was sealed away, like that the druids worked really hard to put this thing behind this sigil, and it was like almost a cataclysmic event where there was this large battle, massive amounts of magic being exchanged, to such that this entire wooded area has been infused with energy, and then this guy's locked behind all of that. So you want it to be scary, something big. Now, they don't have to fight it. The whole campaign could be stopping someone to release it, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want him to fight it, you can make any number of triggers, and that could be there's a powerful guardian that's supposed to protect this final layer, and once it's defeated, the energy of its defeat breaks the seal. The dark entity comes out. You now have to fight that too.
I'll let you
something like that.
This band of comments.
Okay. Let's see. We got the lowest level of the Amway salesman.
Yep, that was the kobold comment.
Yeah.
That I made.
So if it was made to seal away this entity from Edwin Sue, there might be powerful magical traps that are set to activate as you try to get out of the dungeon, but harmless when moving into the dungeon. Yeah, I think there's definitely some traps of some sort. We'll probably look at that, whether in or out, because they don't want people to free this thing either. So there 100% needs to be signs that say this prisoner's sigil was established ad hoc and then bolstered afterwards over time. Oh, wow. Okay. Either way, so this is where we're at.
The welcome mat says, "Do not enter."
Yeah, do not enter. Well, so of course this is a sigil that's supposed to be secret and supposed to be kept secret, and so it was hidden, and the protector was set and perhaps sealed away, and they thought, okay, we're good. What could go wrong? But we're here to design a dungeon. What's fun about that? We need to have more stuff. We need some cool things. So I think let's look at, I don't know, you and I talked about this as being almost like a pyramid of a dungeon.
Reverse pyramid. So yeah.
For sure. So we could do this like this. We'll go way down, and then we're gonna go here, and we've got the dark entity.
Ooh, right? Okay, there it is. I was gonna say, how far are you going down?
So no, not super far down. We might go further down.
That's fine.
And we kind of figured that I'm gonna just add right above it here is we have the protector of the sigil.
Rodimus, you forgot to go blah ha 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 ha.
Yep. Definitely is a pyramid scheme. Now, we also talked previously, you and I, about how we kind of picture, if you're making a dungeon, you probably have the big bad, but then as you work your way to the bottom of the dungeon or to the center of the dungeon or however you build it, you get more and more like really bad down here and a little less as you go up to the point where at the top you've got like the kobolds or the whatever lounging around in the top layers of this dungeon, and then as you go deeper there are the bigger, meaner, gnarlier creatures, monsters, whatever you want to have with that.
Yeah, you figured, pretty much a dungeon, if you look at a dungeon, and if you do it the right way, it's pretty much like building a city. Because you have your government, which is your big bad whatever, the power struggle, and then after that, you have all your other little pieces that fall in underneath that. And pretty much when you get down to the kobolds, whatnot, they're your freeloaders that have moved into the abandoned shack next door and are having parties all night long, so. But you want this ecology to make it make sense, that you just don't want just this random, one room you go into and there's a bunch of kobolds and you just turn the corner and there's a Belrog, and wanting to destroy you. No, the ecology doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you want there to be a progression. So people go in, there's a lower level threat. Now, depending on how large of a scale you want this, because you could make this like this is your campaign. You found this dungeon, and you're going to just do dungeon diving. It's a lower RP, hack and slash style thing. And so you start level 1 with kobolds or whatever. And then you kill them and you level up, and then now you're facing orcs or whatever, these, and you would flavor it for the dungeon. So they'd either could be undead versions of them, they could be worshippers of the sigil, unknowingly aiding in the spreading of their dark powers and everything.
Or you could get even more advanced in it, where you have entities worshiping other entities within the actual dungeon that doesn't know about the ultimate entity, And dungeons can be rather fascinating if you can get into the magnitude of the levels and whatnot. So, and entire cities can be built within. So.
Yep. And it can be that large of a thing, or it could be, okay, we have a dungeon, and these first few rooms are going to be the weaker opponents, and then you're going to go over here and be a little bit stronger, and down here a little bit stronger. You kind of want to, if this is going to be towards the climax of your player's thing, you almost want to force them to use some resources, question whether they should take a long rest, whether they should pull back, come back in.
So getting back to our dungeon itself, absolutely it should be, maybe. Edwin Sue says maybe the top level is the ruin of the keep/castle. There used to be a order living there that protected this place. As Stream Elements pops up, sorry about that, y'all. Order living there that protected this place, but something wiped them out. Yeah, so there was. We've covered that earlier in this particular talk show and the one previous to that. So, or elements of it. So, which is I forgot what we called it right offhand. So. Okay, so you want to start at the...
Start off what? You were going and then you stopped.
We've got the bottom.
Yeah.
So we want to start at the top and maybe label it as do we want that as the ruin/castle, or do we want those buried deep within?
Yeah, I'm fine. We kind of had said that there was ruins already, that this was the former keep, which was destroyed mainly by the Ents. You had a cave built into your map, which I just kind of figured was what was left over, the spot that the opening to the downstairs part of this is kind of all that's been left or been excavated after years.
And on that map there could be easily, you could flavor it as ruins, because the forest and the natural life would have grown up and over all that stuff, especially if it's been thousands of years and so on and so forth. Just look at modern day society and stuff like that, of how long it takes vegetation to grow and spots that are untouched by mankind.
Yeah. These Ents were the protectors of this kind of cave opening, but they've since gone dormant, or at least most of them. So maybe there are some like sapperling ents or whatever that are still. However you still sapperling.
Saplings. Take away the O. Yeah, take away the O and R.
It's around the opening area. Features in and out. So this way you're not facing like full blown ents, but you are facing like their acorns that have now grown into mini ents, or awakened shrubs essentially, and are running around trying to corral the first level stuff to stay in and keep any adventurers out if they can help it, which of course they won't be able to.
No.
Then I think we've got like a layer of something smaller, and maybe this is something that's been able to move in. Doesn't necessarily have to fully deal with what's going on down below.
No, definitely not. Those that wanted to seek shelter either through means of getting away from, whatever, really. I mean, big bad bear monsters to, other bandits or whatever, something low enough level that isn't going to be too much of a problem, but, have set up their home in this area. And I'm thinking maybe kobolds, because they are excellent at traps and stuff. And it'd be kind of a neat little, instead of like always fighting monsters, you got to deal with, pitfalls, and you've got to deal with, rocks falling on you, and you've got to deal with, whatever the little heart's desire as far as how you want to make traps, whether it be a beehive stuck at the end of, or wasp nest stuck at the end of a stick, and you step on the trap and it slaps you in the face. So
yeah, I like that. And I like working traps, something that I don't do enough in my dungeons sometimes. Work some traps in, so it's not just okay, every obstacle you're gonna face is gonna be hack and slash. Give the opportunities for the rogues to do their thing. They're, the rangers that have good perception and all that stuff. Let there be some traps that your people can discover and take care of here. I think we'll come back to traps when we get lower, but more magical and mystical traps that were set up to help protect.
And I think that is our barrier. I think that's where our barrier should come into play, as far as these entities that live above this barrier have no earthly idea what's going on below, because they can't get past those traps. They can't get past those puzzles. They can't get past whatever. Those that can know actually what's going on below, and, maybe has set up a deal with the entity or whatever it could be, so.
Okay, so we got kobolds and traps as kind of our first general obstacle level. Now, again, this could be a straight this level, and then you go down and you go down. Could also be that here's the entrance and here's the end to it, and you're working your way through all this.
Yeah, for sure.
So it doesn't have to be, vertical. It could be, horizontal as well, or a combination thereof.
So,
what are you thinking for the next layer of this? So something else to think about too is that just for people creating dungeons and everything is remember that you don't want to jump too far up. Like, you don't want to go, okay, here's kobolds and here's a green dragon.
As mentioned,
as was mentioned. But I don't hate the idea of something in the tougher dragon family, perhaps. Like, I don't know. I have to look at the CRs. So that's something
That's something, yeah. Especially if you're dealing with Dungeons and Dragons and those style of games, is if you're.
Yeah. So there is kobolds generally, or at least in my brain, had a lot to do as like servants of dragons, and like they're like minions, right? So what about something like in D&D there's a guard drake. It's a CR2 creature, so not like a full dragon, but it is.
Well, it's kind of funny that you brought that up, because my brain was actually thinking of maybe the second level or the second tier or whatnot is bigger monsters have moved in, like beasts and things of that nature, because like other things would have wandered into this dungeon and would have either died, of old age, or been crippled and trying to seek shelter. Well, things would have came in and ate those things and stuff like that, and over time bigger things would have came in and ate those things, so on and so forth. So maybe this drake, whatever it is, is the end, the big bad bear that lives in the cave, that kind of idea.
Yeah. So, there's also a green dragon wormling is a CR2. That could be a fun one to do.
Yeah. And maybe that's the symbiote between these kobolds and the big bad bear, is that the kobolds just keep on bringing stuff in to feed it. That way it appeases, it guards the kobolds while, the kobolds, can live a happy life.
Yeah, and maybe let's let me get rid of that and let's do like owlbear. An owlbear.
Yeah.
Something very iconic. There's a skeletal owlbear. I didn't quite want to stick with that.
So to go off of the Watchers,
owlbear CR3, so that's even harder than this drake I picked up.
Yeah. So we definitely have covered all the like traps and this, that, and the others. I had mentioned about Pentelis mentions hornets. Definitely hornets, giant hornets, stuff like that. Whether the kobolds are actually using them for their own personal traps or have lured them in, or they moved in just whatever reason. Radimus says this would also probably be a good place to use twig blights.
Twig blights. Yeah. I think that's probably what I would do here for the sapperlings.
Yeah, the sapling. Yes.
Like, if I was going to just choose, that was more conceptually, these would be, like I was saying, the babies of the Ents, but they've been twisted anyway. So
they have been twisted, so twig blights would be perfect.
Twig blights are perfect there. I like that. Okay, so we got twig blights, we got the kobolds and traps. We have a green dragon wormling, would be a good... it's a medium monster. It's nothing crazy. It's a CR2. It's definitely doable. We could do other monsters. I was looking at owlbear, but that is a CR3. So I
think we need some cleaners. Stuff like carrion crawlers and rust monsters and things of that nature.
I'm gonna look up carrion crawlers.
Also, another good monster to use that I've used in the past is cave fishers. They're like spiders, but they're not.
Okay, so carrion crawlers are CR2. They'd fit in around the green. Or what we could do is have, upgrade the dragon that we use, so it's not necessarily just CR2. We can put in the cleaners and stuff in here. What else were you thinking?
Rust monsters would be another one, like your cleaners and stuff like that. And for other ones, cave fisher. I don't know if they still have cave fisher or not. And 5 point.
Ooh. Gelatinous cube.
Oh, absolutely. There's our big happy cleaner.
It's like that. That'd be cool. I like that. Okay.
Because they're your dragons and your other stuff's gonna eat, what they're gonna eat, then leave the rest and whatever the hell, or even smaller critters are gonna come in here and die, but the carrion crawlers are gonna take care of, flesh. Your gelatinous cubes are gonna take care of everything else. And your rust monsters are gonna take care of metal, essentially. So
yeah, so I think we changed probably which wormling we do here to.
Yeah.
I like.
Our watchers say Erodimus says you can always have a higher CR monster that is weakened either by injury or curse. Yeah. Excuse me, while I get me some water.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that idea. And depending on what you pull out, there's like even in the monsters stuff that you can get, you can pull up. They have like weakened or reduced threat versions of them in the official stuff if you're using D&D. Now again, if you're not using D&D, which I get, it's just what we're using right now because it's what we're the most familiar with and have the easiest access to information with. Just sub in similar style monsters from whatever
game system
you're doing.
Sure. Continuing. See here, that's pretty much the same. Include the same. Edwin Sue says all kinds of oozes make good cleaners. Oh, for sure, absolutely.
And I think we'll just put in here like cleaner creatures.
Yeah, cleaner creatures or cleaner style monsters. Yeah, cleaner creatures I kind of like. So.
Kind of put in just whatever you think would be a challenge to your party that would allow them to excel in some way or another, make them kind of work to earn that.
And you could design the dungeon where it makes sense, where basically, I'm gonna say the name wrong, there's basically a poo monster in D&D, and they eat poo, so on and so forth, and you could have the dungeon where there's a low spot in that area, and basically all the feces and all the rubble that the kobolds have collected or the monsters go and have created this pool, and the walls are slick and whatnot, and suddenly your party is slipping and sliding down the poo slide and into this pit, and here's this monster that comes out. Yeah, that's it. Edwin Sue says that's exactly what that monster is. So
Audio.
Yeah. I like to call it the poo creature. So
you would. All right, so here we've got the twig blights, we have kobolds, we have mixed kind of around there would be the carrion crawlers, gelatinous cube somewhere. We'd have like a larger dragon wormling of some sort that could be injured, could be reduced. Maybe they've lost a wing or something like that, so they're no longer really capable of being out there. But they found this group of kobolds that have kind of sworn themselves to the dragon, and is also absorbing, probably not knowingly, fully some of this dark energy, and it's there. And that's probably a good spot where you'd have like almost a break point in this dungeon.
For sure.
This is like you level up, you rest, you figure out before you get to somewhere down. And I think there would be some sort of obstacle to reduce mobility to lower levels.
I think this was where you can put in your the ground has given away and you have a large chasm, a river runs through it. Just any and everything you can think of that's a natural feature that would separate one level from the next. And that way you don't have to deal with magic so much, you deal with, the natural surroundings. That's where your survival and people, where the Dungeoneer's kit comes into play and equipment and stuff, so.
Yeah, I mean, this could be like a crevice system where maybe there used to be stairs, but they've long since fallen away. Could be just a large gap has been opened up in the earth between this part and the next part, and it would take work to get over there, so most things haven't been able to.
Two things, or a giant lake could be there. As Radam says, a massive bramble maze also could be a possibility as well. So again, tailor this to your party, I would say, to a certain extent. Like, know what they're capable of. If they have things that synergize a little bit with water, give them a giant lake. If they have a thief that has second story work or whatever, maybe you make it so that there's an acrobatic way to kind of like work your way through to the other side to then pull the rope over for your party to crawl across, or whatever it is. Yeah, rangers. Let certain party members shine in this area and stuff. It doesn't always have to be the "I wish to kill everything," movement.
Yeah.
So,
and I think as a dungeon master, you will appreciate forcing your players to think up solutions.
Yeah, for sure.
You could also make this a puzzle to get across. I had a dungeon that I had found online that I've run for some people before, where it's like there are these magical pillars that if you touch, you levitate. And if you touch them enough, you can walk along the wall to get to the other side. And once you get to the other side, it dissipates. But it takes the players a while before they're going to trust glowing pillars or, frustration for someone to finally go, okay, I touch it. And then something happens like, oh, okay. Now I know how this works.
Yeah, for sure.
Just see what your players enjoy. And these sorts of dungeons are great for that. You can say, okay, I'm going to have these obstacles, they're traps you got to figure out. We have these other obstacles, physical things you got to get across. These other ones are puzzle pieces for your party to play in. And just even going through 2 or 3 layers of dungeon, then your party. You know what they're into, what they're excel at, what excites them.
And don't be afraid to put areas in your dungeon where they can actually have long rest and have the ability to heal, and it could be a small, 10 foot by 10 foot space, a cliff edge or some little area for them to, chill out at. But because those moments when they do that, those are role-playing moments. Those are the moments that you actually get to see your party interact with each other, try to figure out, where are we going? Are we going to continue going through this dungeon? I only have this much water. I only have this much food. Should we track back? Should we kill another monster? So on and so forth, So you can make it a really, really intense experience.
Yeah, and this would be a good spot to be like, okay, you've cleared the things above you. Here's a great spot for you to hang out and take that long rest, reassess things, know that there's this tough to pass chasm over here, and over there is all the dead things we've already dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you get across this chasm, solve the puzzle, whatever it is. What do we want to be facing in this second layer, essentially, of this dungeon?
I think these beings either traveled here a long time ago or have been put in place. Whether it be constructs or elementals, or maybe it is the offspring of the original, entities that were put here. And they started their own little community and stuff like that. So, and maybe they don't know anything beyond the chasm or beyond the Great Lake or beyond,
I think for sure, whatever they are, they don't interact with outside of this, and that's what makes that a safe resting place. So what are we thinking? Do we want to go the more elemental, in which case I would say they were either like the fallout of the war.
The crypts and stuff like that, maybe, of the fallen.
Oh, so you're going to like undead sort of things? Like,
I mean,
my thought was.
Well, okay, go ahead. What's your thought?
If you go elemental, like you had mentioned, then my thought was, what happened when all this magic happened? They were spawned. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
It's not. I mean, or they could have been summoned by mages or these druids to protect this area.
Yeah, for sure.
It's either way. We had also talked about at some point hitting undead, since we do already have this lich thing.
We do,
and I think the big bad should probably definitely be down there. The other thing I would say is, if you're crafting this for your party, change the challenge of all these things based on what level your party goes in it. So currently I'm kind of designing this as if this was your whole campaign. Yeah, so we have kobolds, and we've got, carrion crawlers. So we're starting with like the low CR, a little bit higher, but none of them are super high so far.
So we have two really good suggestions in chat. Edmund Sue, the crypts where the honored dead of the order protecting this place were inferred or interred. And then continuing with that thought, Erodimus says maybe shield guardians who were built to eternally protect this place, imbued with the spirit of those who volunteered from the initial protectors.
Yeah. I think it's. I think if we were gonna go undead, we choose a point to do undead from there on out.
Yeah.
Because there's so many undead creatures that you can do. So you can.
How about
zombies or?
Well, maybe this is that tier that is like in the whole Indiana Jones. I'm gonna quote this: the third movie. You shall not pass, or you chose unwisely. The Knights Templar guy. Like they're the guardian. Yes, the Last Crusade. Thank you, Erodimus. They were the protector undead. Those that are not cursed to I forgot what they're exactly called, but.
Okay. Well, I mean, we were mentioned like shield guardians in there, so I mean, we could do this where they are
the last defense against, those that are trying to get the entity out and the entity from coming,
Yeah. Shield Guardians are pretty high to jump from the 3rd level there to 7th in there, but I do think like a construct would be a good option to look for. But in fact, because we're not necessarily designing this for, straight, this is what it is, I would put constructs.
Yeah.
This is, like you said, a line of defense. That were put here to keep people. So this was designed by these druids or whatever to keep anyone from going down further from this point. And you can choose, depending on your party's power level, you can just kind of look through and you're going to look for some sort of construct.
Yeah.
Or various numbers of them. Depends on how powerful your party is. Another thing I like to do is take monsters and reskin them. So in a previous time, I had taken a zombie beholder and just reskinned it to be like a clockwork beholder. So things like that you can do too. So if you find something fun and that you think would be interesting for your party to have to face off against and would challenge them, then try something like that. Reskin a regular beholder or whatever. If they're overly reliant on magic and you really want to try to make them flex a little bit, depending on their level, you could make, a smaller version that deals less damage, or, one that maybe just shuts down magic in a certain area, than something else that's actually the scary threat.
You could even do the whole, spirit thing like Lord of the Rings, where these are the spirits of, the protectors and whatnot, and have it where it's like, it's not necessarily a fight, it's you have to answer some kind of riddle or a puzzle or something like that, to be worthy to continue going through the dungeon, or some kind of deception, even, depending on. So beyond that,
I think we're just adding here a puzzle / riddle may allow. Yeah, I think we go too much lower, and we start to face the themed monsters that should fit the theme of our dungeon. And in this case, I think we're going with an undead theme.
Yeah. And I think, well, beyond this, like this is the guard gate. This is the prison gate, and beyond that is where they have all the locked prisoners at. So I think this is where it gets bad beyond this level. Whether it be minions that serve the dark entity, or those that got wrapped up in whatever are now the threshold. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think there's some sort of barrier here.
And maybe that's the magical barrier that I talked about earlier. Not only there's the constructs, or whatever defensive thing you've got going on, but then you've got the barrier itself that could also be magical on top of that. So, this
could be a magical barrier puzzle.
Oh yeah, even so much that where you've got to not only do a series of dispel magics, but maybe you've got to, put the square hole in the round peg or whatever, at the exact moment in time, or...
Yeah, once again, you want your party to be able to move forward. Erasmus puts in there, perhaps it needs some form of key.
Yeah.
I love that idea too, because it allows for someone to find a thing. Perhaps the main construct that protects this layer has in its heart like a stone that is needed to be inserted in order to open this door. Again, we're not necessarily designing the specifics of it today. We're not writing the full module. We're writing the outline of it.
Yeah. And you
so
could
I
even...
think...
No, I was going to say, depending on how far you go with this idea, this module idea, however you want to set it up, that key could be the very beginning of your entire campaign.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Yeah, you could find a key somewhere, and that key now is used to unlock and open that door, but you didn't know much about it. You do research, and it leads you to this dungeon. Like, maybe you don't know. Like, that would be a cool start, like, to a bigger campaign even. You could make this smaller than what we're currently setting it out to be, but you get this key, and you go to this dungeon, and you get through all these hurdles, and you use the key, and you keep going, and you find the sigil, and you're like, do something that releases this entity, and now you're like, oh, I just released Sauron into the world.
Yeah.
Crap. That sort of thing. All right, so we have the magical barrier puzzle. Once again, look at your party, determine what they're going to be able to handle as far as party makeup and everything here. And I think at this level we're probably looking at like darker forces.
Yeah, this could, for sure.
I think in our instance we're looking specifically probably more undead.
Yeah. Because
there's already this lich tieback to the Midnight Dawn. Dead foes. I don't know how specific we want to get in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, and it should be based on your power structure, really. I mean, whether it starts out with, hordes and hordes of zombies and skeletons, trying to claw their way out. Could be the minions of the dark. And it could be set up just like that, actually, really. I mean, as far as, like, the army of the dark entity, and it starts out with the lonely soldiers, which would be your skeletons now, your zombies, your ghouls, and stuff like that. And then beyond that, your sergeants, and then your captains, and your majors, and then your generals would be the last step to the dark entity itself.
I kind of see, and someone in the chat, I think it might have been Edwin Soon, had mentioned this earlier, is the Fallen that were designed to originally protect against this dark entity, or perhaps even fell in that last battle, were entombed here. Thinking this dark entity's put away, there's no issues, but over the years, that energy has leached out and has animated these dead. So there'll be hordes of like the rank and file troops that will be your fodder, your zombies, your skeletons, your whatever. There'll be some that will have absorbed greater energy. And so there'll be just various levels, I think, of undead, from the hordes to the, stronger, more powerful.
And that puts it to an interesting thought process, because if you're going to set it up like tombs, then there's some research right there as far as, looking at the different types of tombs and how people were buried and how you want to set it up, because like an average soldier could just have a hole in the wall, and it could be rows and rows of these holes in the wall, to a captain that might have a room with all of his belongings and whatnot that he cherished, not only during his, campaign as far as being a war hero, but also, his personal life too, And the general would have, even more elaborate stuff. Maybe he has an entire apartment complex, so you've got to go through this entire apartment complex just to fight this guy, which would be a layered action, which would be, he would have his own, and then the traps and all this other stuff would be built into each of these tomb areas. So yeah, I mean, it could be something truly great to terrifying all at the same time.
I added that part. Here's so the rank and file would have like little niches in the wall, while captains and generals would have rooms or even small complexes worked into the facility. And I don't know how deep we really want to go. I think that's probably a good structure.
So too. Yeah.
Then I think what you have is, after you get through those, there's another kind of break. A point where you get a moment they can, do a long rest again. Now, it doesn't mean that these are only places they can do their long rests, but they're almost built in to the beats of this story.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you get to this point, this is either another puzzle or another, jumping point.
Seal. Yeah.
And you open up this doorway and you're in a large room. And now we had talked about, now we're going to say this, is that it doesn't matter which way you go with this, just you choose what you want. But a defender, a protector of the sigil.
Yeah.
You had found a what were we looking at her? Undead, right? You had found
it was called Hollow Dragon, I think it was called.
Hollow Dragon. Yeah. Which is really cool. They're thematically, they were dragons that basically gave up their lives to protect a spot. And so they're there. They have legendary actions. They're CR18. Now, again, if that doesn't fit your story point,
don't do it.
Then don't use that. But something like that, and I'm going to just write it here because I like that idea.
And those that are curious to know where it's found in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So,
yeah,
where that particular dragon is found at. So,
yeah. So you have some protector of the sigil, and so my thought is you open up into this room, or you go down these passageways, and there's a large room, and in the center or on the floor, maybe there's a glowing sigil worked into it. And as you approach, this hollow dragon comes down to protect it. Which, of course, he's not going to ask questions.
Yeah, and in our particular story arc, or all this together, it would be a black sigil, is what we initially said, and that's why the mercenary group is named. It's named literally after the sigil that traps the entity within. So,
and then again, go back to however you want to cause that dark entity to be released, if that's what you want it to be. That could be the defeat of this dragon that's protecting it. That could be, okay, your party, they're going to poke the sigil. You let them defeat the dragon and let them crack open the sigil.
For sure.
Or if they don't, they go away, and now they've just cleared a dungeon, and the idiots who are trying to free this dark entity, or whatever, the Midnight Dawn, are like, oh great, this guy just cleared the dungeon for us.
Or what is famous for Indiana Jones, the Nazis come in and sweep and get all the fame and glory, So thank you for doing our dirty work. Now we are here to drink from the magic cup. So, but yeah, or you can even have it set up. I've done this before, where a party has moved in has done all the things and have gone so far, and they just couldn't go anymore. And they're like, okay, we just got to come back and do everything over again, but it'll be cleared, right? No, because after so many times, after so many months and whatnot, other things have moved in. Other things have, taken up the power struggle, and things are much different now. Either monsters have fought against each other and have claimed, ruling right, or whatever the hell, it could be. So it could be just this ongoing insanity that you could could last for, a year or more, So it's all depending on how long you want this to progress. So.
Yeah. So I think that's generally where we will probably call it, because we've gone long today. For our normal, but it's been a good session. We've had some great things come up. So this is just a general layout of like how we would design perhaps this dungeon. How we would come up with what it would generally look like, some little notes, and then all you would then have to do is fill in what you want them to be, and perhaps draw it out, which I think, with this information, you can easily go and say, all right, so we're looking at 4 breaking points somewhere in this dungeon. There's 4 obstacles or things that would give a point where the party can go, okay, we can relax, we can take a moment to recuperate, and then we can move on. And that can be worked into your map, like you said, either a sealed door, a puzzle, a chasm, a lake, whatever. All right, I think that's probably a good place, right, Dave, to wrap this up for the day.
I think so. And
thank you, everyone, for joining us. We do appreciate you guys being in here. We do appreciate all those who check this out later on YouTube. If you want to find it, we take the 2 halves and we split them up. So there will be later on today a Tuesday Talks at some point today dropping on YouTube as I'm finishing the edit. And then I will...
Sorry about that.
More people getting hit with ads. So anyways, sorry, but that's the reality of streaming live. So if you don't like the ads, check it out on YouTube in a couple weeks, and you can get your whole thing without ads and everything there. We do appreciate it.
I think if y'all sub, y'all also, the ads go away too. I'm not too sure on that one though. So, but yeah.
Speaking of subs, if you're on here, you have Amazon Prime, you can, or whatever they call it these days, you can sub for free using your Amazon account information there. That would be awesome. Otherwise, we do have Patreon as well, which we will drop all these notes, all these things will get eventually compilated into something legible and passed on to our patrons for them to use without having to go back and meticulously watch the video over and over and listen to us ramble about things and spitball about things. When's your next game there, Dave?
So the next big one is going to be on Friday, A Seabound Journey. The party has made it into Bunray, the Pirate City, and things are interesting, let's just say for a fact. And the party split, and we had a offline game session with those that split the party. Will not be revealed until future possibilities. But you can find the party entering a interesting place called Baloney's Bar, which is ran by a boar folk. So, named Baloney.
Whatever. Anyways, I'll be back to play in our Monday night game. We're hopefully returning to our Fate system. If you're interested in checking that out, please do. Plus Games Tuesday and all sorts of things.
Just all fun stuff. So,
Yeah, we got most of that information below on our Twitch descriptions and all that stuff. Otherwise, follow our social, because Dave's pretty good about posting the event schedules every Friday or so to let everyone know that. We also have Discord. If you're interested in getting a hold of us, you can find us at thexpguild.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a great one.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.